Ahoy guys, and welcome to episode 5 of the Golden Kamuy. This week's title was The Border, and we are already on episode 5. This week's episode was a very, very different episode. We followed Team Asirapa, which is quite nice. I did miss them a little bit. It was mainly the last half that really got my intrigue going. This week we're following Team Asirapa, which is quite cool. We also learn in our open that Asirapa is actually at Shizuoka, which is far, far north than Toyohara, which is where Sugimoto initially thinks she was. So the guys are well and truly behind, and they're nowhere near where Asirapa actually is. I guess the open kind of serves as a visual explanatory that we know that they're that far ahead. It starts pretty as we normally get with Golden Kamuy, where we learn a bit more about the Ainu lifestyle. This time we are in the Ilta, I think that's how you pronounce it, the Ilta Ainu section. Our team come face to face with an old tradition where the Ainu would bury their dead up in a sky burial where they are buried off the floor, which is a very interesting belief. I think Kiro even says it is as your gods change, so does your lifestyle, which is quite cool. So I also still want a confirmation from someone in the audience if the Russian we're hearing is proper Russian and it's not just a mock-up kind of thing. I'd like to know if that was Russian, because it does sound like Russian. We see Ogata, King Headshot, as what I like to nickname him, just breaking the conversation. So the guys are getting all involved in this nice little conversation about the Ainu traditions, where we hear a gunshot ring out as Ogata has decided that he wanted to kill a reindeer. Okay, rest in peace, Rudolph. Ogata says, no Christmas, guys. Christmas is cancelled. We find out that the reindeer that has been killed has a wooden branch tied around its neck, where the Ainu would tie him around. Essentially, I called it a pet. I wasn't too far away, but it was their herd. So the ones that they tame and they put out to pasture and stuff, they're the ones that they tie the branches around the necks to. So essentially, Ogata did shoot somebody's pet. Asirapa, which is what I found hilariously funny, she ties a branch around Shiraishi's neck, and Akiro's like, let's make sure that we line it up with his dick so he doesn't walk off to any of the brothels. I love that. I just pull Shiraishi. It's also quite sad because I really do miss the comedy duo that was Sugimoto and Shiraishi. So I've just kind of got to deal with it's still funny, but it's not that same level of funny that we used to get with Shiraishi and Sugimoto. I do miss seeing those two together. I do. I'm hoping by the end of the season we get to see them united. Do I think it's going to happen? I hope so. I'm not 100% that we might meet up. I do believe that there's probably enough in the manga for us to get another few seasons out of this. But it would be just, I think that's my hopes for where I hope this anime ends up at the last episode, is that I hope the teams come face to face with each other. We learn a bit more about our new Ainu group, who like to live in tents, so they're a little different. They don't live in houses. Because they killed one of the reindeers, which was considered their herd, so the ones that they were tame with, they say that you have to either give us a reindeer in return, obviously you restore what you took, or you must join us and help us hunt a wild one. And we get a nice little story, so everything does have a little purpose, where we find out that Wilk, as a child or as a young man, he shot a reindeer just like Ogata did, and he decided to pay them back by going on a hunt. Kiro starts to explain the hunting traditions. Asirapa gets a memory jog. She remembers laying down and she was playing with these wooden reindeer, which turns out to be that they would use fake reindeer decoys to hunt the reindeer. Ogata, in quite a sweet little moment, turns around and asks Asirapa, will you come with me? And she's like, of course I will. Both Kiro and Ogata are trying to jog Asirapa's memories. And it's working. We saw last episode, Asirapa has started to remember some stuff. This week she remembers the wooden decoy, which I think kind of gives away what happens at the end of this episode. I literally thought right back to this moment, because aside from that, we don't see them use the fake reindeer, because essentially when we go hunting, so we do go hunting with them, Ogata being the king of headshots, they don't need the fake reindeer. We get another comedy moment. So Shiraishi really is just the comedy element that they've left in with Team Asirapa. Team Sugimoto already as well. Those guys together already a team comedy duo. We don't really need any more help there. So Shiraishi is our comedy element left in with the Team Asirapa section, where he gets bitten on the head by a reindeer, where he starts to get really angry at Ogata. And he's like, we should have just ran away. Where Asirapa's like, you're such a dick. And I like how blunt a Syrupa can be at times. But Kiro says this is all part of the plan anyway, so we needed to make contact with the Ainu here so that we could pass a bit further north. Even if Ogata had somehow, done his piece and he was like good and didn't shoot any reindeers, they would have eventually needed to talk to these guys anyway. So Ogata's kind of giving them a nudge, but they could have happily done it without shooting any reindeers. Ogata, being King Headshot as my nickname for him stands, he decides that he wants to be the first to shoot, and he kills pretty much the entire herd. We see him run out of bullets. He ends up borrowing the other guy's gun, so they swap guns, and he kills the entire herd where the Ainu is just so impressed with him that Ogata turns into a bit of a gun nerd. This is an older model. He goes into all the bits and pieces. This is very important because we see this gun swap coming to save his life essentially a bit later on during the episode. So it wasn't just us showing off how obsessed Ogata is with his guns and how much he likes guns. It does come into play a bit later on, which is why I think I like Golden Kamuy's storytelling. They don't say something which doesn't mean something. So all the information they give you actually has some importance. It will come back at a later date. They do things with the intention of making it tie into the plot later on, which is something I think the anime does really, really well, and I definitely praise them for making everything relevant. At the reindeer feast, we get the multiple different ways of eating reindeer. Of course, with the Ainu, nothing goes to waste, so we eat everything. The milk gets used, the skin is used for pelts. We see Kiro as well presenting a present, and it is a Ainu needle holder. And the needles are very important to the women. I know as a cosplayer, my needles are super important, so I can definitely sympathise with that one. But we also know that Kiro is essentially trying to get a favour. He's presenting a present to win over their favour. Because obviously they started on a bit of a bad foot. Obviously they've made it up now. They've got a lot of meat. They've got a lot of pelts. But the favour they need, essentially, they need to head over the border into Russia. But they have no papers. But we know that the Ainu are allowed to pass over the borders, so they essentially need to be smuggled in dressed as Ainu. I like the fact that we see Ogata as an Ainu. It's the first time I think we've seen him actually change outfits. It's quite nice. Let's quickly now go and visit the mastermind behind the entire second half of the episode. Captain Leaky Brain himself in the flesh. We are back at Otaru, where Leaky Brain decides he wants to tell Nikaido a story, maybe to make him feel better about the fact that he doesn't have a hand. Who knows? I don't know if he's accepted the other hand just yet. Didn't really tell him there. In 1881, an event took place in St. Petersburg, which was the capital at the time for Russia. Alexander II was assassinated by a bomb. I did know this, so I'm quite happy it's tied into some real-world history here. And it also allows me to get a date, because I completely forgot what date we were dealing with. Leaky Brain says, at this time, Kiro Ranki would have been in his teens during this event. So is he going to become a hero or a criminal? And Leaky Brain really is the mastermind behind the entire section. So he's not even in the same little continent that these guys are in. He's all the way back in Japan, and he's already pulling strings. That shows you the influence that Leaky Brain really has, where he has spread some information that Russia's definitely going to be interested in hearing. And he pins the assassination of Alexander on Kiro. And he says, he's making his way from Karafuto soon into Russia, which is information that becomes very relevant in this very next section, where Leaky Brain has tipped off Russia that Kiro Ranki is making his way up. He essentially does know the path that Kiro is going to make, which is almost the opposite of what Team Sugimoto know, because Team Sugimoto still think that Team Kiro are back down where they are. And they also, I think last episode, we had the information about the biggest prison in the area. So I believe that's the next route for where Team Sugimoto will go, but it's not where Team Asuripa is. So it's very interesting to know that Leaky Brain has already figured out where Team Asuripa is heading, while Sugimoto's team doesn't actually know that information. But it does just double down on how smart that guy really is, where we get our teams crossing the border. As they cross the border, the shots are fired. The Ainu man's father is shot. So there's two Ainu members. We've got the young man who is the son of the older man. We find out that Ogata, who really liked his gun, the new older gun, he swapped his guns around. And if he had not have done this, he would have been shot. They do say that the hat protected the old man and he actually didn't die. Ogata is wearing a thick hat, so he probably would not have died. But this is how close we are to have almost been knocked completely into a different direction with our story. Can you guys imagine what would have happened if Ogata had been the one to be shot and that would have been it and he had actually died? We were so close to actually having a different storyline happen. So there's actually a few moments in this entire episode where we were so close to something else happening and the story taking a very different path. Because of the accuracy of how this guy has gone down, Ogata deduces that the man who has shot them is a very experienced sniper. And this whole second half, I might even have it as the title, it's sniper versus sniper, and it makes for one hell of a thrilling piece of art to watch. And the whole sequence between the two, it's just thrilling. It does remind me of some... If you're into your Sherlock Holmes, and of course I'm currently releasing on Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty, it does remind me of that level of genius where the two are stalking one another. The guy goes to try and snipe the son, but we see Kiro get him and he stops him and he pushes him down to the floor. That gives Ogata a chance to spot where the sniper is actually hiding. It also tips him off and he sees what the gun looks like. The snipers were essentially, again, tipped off by Leaky Brain, but they also saw the gun that the man was carrying, which is Ogata's gun. The snipers decide that it is going to be a kill-all situation. They don't know if they killed Kiro. So obviously they're there to kill Kiro, the man who assassinated the Emperor. But because they can't tell if they've hit him or not, they decide to kill everybody, even though there is some hesitation, which this whole sequence kind of spirals into Ogata and Timo Siripi's favour because of essentially what happens next. Where Ogata instructs Shiraishi, pick up my gun. He straight out refuses because he feels like it is basically a death sentence because it's that gun which tipped everybody off. So he refuses, whilst Kiro's like, you have to move the sled. We need to move. Because they have become sitting ducks. The longer they sit there out in the open, they are at a disadvantage. They need to move. Where Kiro says, you have to do it. Where both of the reindeer end up dying. So it really is a massacre for the reindeers this episode. Bad time to be a reindeer. I hope there's no reindeer watching. I'm sorry. Ogata gets very suspicious. He's like, well, border guards don't normally just open fire. This has to be an ambush. Kiro suddenly gets the flashback of the assassination of Alexander, where he stands up and he literally just walks over to the man's body. The sniper gets a full-on good look at Kiro, and at this point I'm like, well, you must know, because you've got really good eyes. Snipers have fantastic eyesight. You must know this is the man you're looking for. I was very suspicious when I found out that he didn't shoot. Obviously, he gives us a reason a bit later on, but this was almost a bit of a red herring. I started to go, does the sniper know Ogata? Is it possible, because he gets a bit of a good look at Ogata as well, is it almost that he knows Kiro and he knows Ogata? Do they know each other? One of those moments where I'm like, it's definitely a red herring because we find out exactly why he didn't do it. It's odd. I just really feel like it's a red herring, but it's a very clever red herring to make me think about something completely different. In my head, I was like, oh, he must be in on the plan. He must be one of the comrades to Ogata and Kiro, but turns out he isn't. Whilst everybody is looking at the heroic act that Kiro is doing to pick up the body and walk across, the second sniper, so the blonde sniper, not the main guy who is currently getting a good look at Kiro, he's hit in the stomach by Ogata. King Headshot is no longer sticking to his headshot name, where he doesn't hit him in the head. They managed to use this to move ahead and escape. We see that the Ainu dad isn't dead. He was protected by the big fuzzy hat. I have worn a proper Russian, I don't know what the hat name is, but the big fluffy hats, I have worn one. They are thick. They really are thick. I had one on. It muffles your hearing. So your ability to hear with these things on your head, really, it does impact it. So I can definitely believe that the hat definitely saved him from taking a proper headshot. Where Kiro says, I was saved by Kamui, that he believes he was saved by a spiritual divine entity. I did a quick look in Wiki, and what I got, which I found very fascinating, is a Kamui, which is an Ainu Japanese belief. Absolutely fantastic to know that this is a thing. It turns out it is a spiritual or a divine being that in Ainu mythology, it denotes a supernatural entity composed of or possessing just spiritual power. When Ogata's like, no, you were saved by me, and the old guy was saved by his hat. We get to know a little bit more about how Ogata works and what he believes. Ogata believes that everything that happens has a reason. So he doesn't believe in fate. He's probably not a fatalist. He believes that everything has a reason. Things happen for a reason. Where somebody would see something falling over and go, ooh, that might be supernatural. Ogata would look at it and go, no, there was a breeze, that it fell over for a reason. He says, we're going to go and find out why they're after us. And he starts to walk off. And he says, this is round 2 of the Russia-Japan war. Also back at Camp Sniper, the sniper who stalled, the one who actually stalled when he saw Kiro, like Ogata, he walks off. He says, I'm going to go and kill the man who killed the emperor. He says that Ogata didn't headshot my comrade, and he took a stomach shot instead. His motive essentially was just to slow them down and escape. And this is where it gets really interesting. I believe that the second half of this episode is better than the first half. I'm more into the second half than the first half. It is sniper versus sniper. To the Russian sniper, a good sniper is somebody who is cold, interested in the murder and pursuing their prey, where we get pretty much a definition of Ogata. The Russian sniper tries to predict Ogata's moves. So he's also very clever. I do think Ogata ends up with the edge on this, and I'll explain what I think's going on. And of course, the people who know the manga, you guys already know what's going on. I guess you guys can silently appreciate how close or how bad my ideas are at the end. The Russian guy starts to predict the moves. He's like, I believe that he's going to set an ambush. So he sets up his own comrades as bait. He tries to stay one step ahead, so he keeps an eye on his comrades and he tries to get a lockdown on where Ogata is. Basically, the winner of this game is going to be who can find the other sniper first, because they're both hidden. They're both really, really clever. If one of them gets an open, they're not going to hesitate. They're going to shoot one another. So he waits, and the comrades are obviously set up a bait, but nothing follows. There's no shot follows, where the sniper's like, wait, he must actually be waiting for me. Sniper's comrades mistakenly pick up the drum, and this sets off one of Kiro's traps, which explodes, and both of them end up very, very gravely wounded, and we can hear them screaming in agony. So they're not dead, but they are in pain. So we now catch Ogata's idea of what a sniper is. The people who are cut out to be snipers, they are so careful that they're almost a coward. Because Ogata himself is what I consider top-notch sniper level, if there's ever going to be a top 10 anime snipers, if Ogata's not on the list, I'm going to be very disappointed, because this man doesn't miss the mark very often, apart from the not killing Sugimoto, but he was so close to killing Sugimoto. We kind of find out now why this man didn't shoot initially, and this is why I was led down a red herring. I was incorrect when I thought that he knew Ogata and Kiro. He doesn't. I was showing respect to this man who was risking his life to pick up his comrade. Also, I didn't like the way that he gave off this aura. He gave off this impression that it was a go ahead, go and shoot me kind of thing. He was almost being taunted into shooting Kiro, where again we catch Ogata's thoughts, where he says, that's correct, you wouldn't reveal yourself to go and save them. You could sit here all night listening to those screams and you would not care. Lays into the fact that both of these snipers have the same idea of what a good sniper is. And they both seem to be following the fact that to be a sniper, you need to be cold. You need to be unmoved. Kiro and Asirapa and Shiraishi go and find the Russian who is wounded sat on the floor, and he's holding Kiro's picture and saying the same word again and again. If there is a Russian speaker in the audience, please, 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 what is he saying? And he does say, Russia has not forgotten you. And the sniper then thinks he finds Ogata, and I've put fake Ogata right here, right now. I do not believe it's Ogata. I'm going to tell you in a minute why I think it's not Ogata. He says, I have to fire. It's going to be a kill-all situation, because if he misses and if he doesn't get it in one shot, he's dead. Ogata isn't going to waste any time. He's going to shoot him right back. He is going to be dead. He can't waste. But then the Russian sniper notices something odd. He says that he's not moving at all. And I remembered initially the situation with Asirapa, where she spoke about the decoy wooden deer. I believe that, so if you guys are obviously manga readers, you can silently appreciate me or laugh at me, depending if how close I am right now. I believe Ogata has set up a fake decoy, just like the wooden deer. And I think we're going to come next episode. Ogata's probably right behind this guy with his gun to his head. That's what I think it is. I believe that the mention of the wooden deer from Asirapa's memory was not just a slip of the tongue. I believe they put it in for a reason. They're very clever. They put it in because that is what is going on right here. So we get the end theme, and next week's episode is Bad Sign. That is the end of the review, the end of the episode. It's been a fantastic episode. I really enjoyed it. The second half was fantastic. Just the level of skill between the two snipers makes for a very interesting battle, because you've got a battle between two very smart men. These men are essentially on the same level. I think Ogata has got the edge. And I do believe that it's going to pretty much turn next episode and we're going to see the situation clear itself up and get resolved very quickly. Just seeing a battle of wits, the battle of intelligence between the two, absolutely fascinating to watch. And I do believe, I don't know if I've said it before, obviously I've got a soft spot for the voice actor for Ogata, but by no way am I saying he's my favourite character. I like him as a interesting anti-hero or a villain. Can I call him a villain? I'm not quite sure, but he's that kind of villain I appreciate. I don't like a bad guy for a bad guy. If you watched any of my videos, you know that about me. I just don't like the fact that I'm bad for the sake of being bad. I have no reasons. Ogata fascinates me and I don't know what he's up to, and that's why I find him so fascinating. I have no idea what the man's up to. Obviously, we saw him jumping around allegiances during 2 seasons, and I don't know anything about the man. He's still a complete enigma to me. Just even when we get little glimpses into the kind of man he is, it's just fascinating to me. He is so fascinating to watch. I believe he is a fantastically written character. I am very interested in getting more information and actually seeing what happens in the end with this character. It was a fascinating sequence to watch with the two between each other, and I've had absolute fun. It's another fantastic video. Apologising for the people who didn't seem to like last week's episode. It did get a fair few downvotes. Not quite sure what I did. Essentially, if you are going to downvote, I would appreciate some constructive criticism, essentially. So if I'm doing something wrong, I'm trying not to nickname as much. I know that people didn't like that. I like giving nicknames, especially if I think it's something funny or to me, that's just how I sometimes relate to a character. Like Leaky Brain is always going to be Leaky Brain. I'm not even apologising for that. That's just how he is with me. But yeah. So thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. You will be helping a growing channel. I am trying to bring more and more to the plate, do more in-depth stuff. I want to do a lot more in the future. I've got quite a few plans that I want to do, but I need a bit of a bigger audience to make it happen. So we're not quite there yet, but please keep liking, subscribing, doing the magical thing. You guys are all often quite fun to talk to. Channel schedule, if you are just new or you're finding the channel, Sunday to Monday, we talk about Moriarty the Patriot. Come and join us for some very hardcore detective work. The breakdowns over there are pretty intense. We also talk history. Monday, Tuesday is Golden Kamuy. You guys should know that by now. It's a fantastic anime. Absolutely love talking about it. One week it's funny. Next week it's 180 and you in the feels. It's a very clever anime. Wednesday mornings would normally be Ikebukuro Westgate Park. You will have to check out the last video on that just to see what stands over there. Noodles takes its place Wednesday to Thursday mornings. Friday is Journey of Elena. That is the channel schedule. Hopefully you guys are taking care of yourself, making sure you guys are okay. I will be seeing you again Monday, Tuesday for the next episode of Golden Kamuy, which will be Bad Sign. Can't wait for it. I'm having great fun. I hope you guys are too. Have a good week. Have a good weekend. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.